Well, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Quiet Out Loud. As per our usual, our disclaimer, our guest today is fantastic and wonderful in her own right, and we'll hear her introduction soon. But wanted to remind everybody the opinions today are held by the speaker and speaker only. They are not reflective of the where they may have worked or their current workplace, and ideas are not to be held in perpetuity. So with that, going to let our guest introduce themselves. Rhona, take us away.
Hey everyone, I'm Rhona Pierce. I am the founder and creative director at Perceptible Studios. What we do is create videos for recruiting teams, employer branding teams, and I'm also the host of the Workfluencer podcast where we're redefining how we talk about work.
That's, you know, I don't know if anybody else has given her podcast a listen, but it is phenomenal. Asks great questions to her guests, and would love to hear. So far in all the episodes you've recorded, what has been your favorite question you've asked?
Well, I love putting people in the hot seat, and I actually tested out one of my segments called Plea to the Fifth at Transform. I tested it out live, and my favorite question was asking recruiters if they've ever moved a candidate forward because they were ridiculously good looking. That is my absolute favorite question, and I can't wait to share it, like the answers throughout the episodes. So it's exciting.
That's really funny. I really, really hope that when that comes out, when that episode drops, that your production team gets the like Ben Stiller from Zoolander going, just because I think that would be hilarious.
I'm actually gonna write that down because there's still time
There is still
to
time.
re-edit those episodes. But yeah, it was such an amazing, like, I would ask people serious questions and then I would throw that one in and they would be like, what? It was amazing. I love that question.
Well, speaking of serious questions, I'm gonna let my co-host here ask you our first serious question. Ben, you want to take it away?
Please. All right, Rona. What is the about your space?
So the quiet part about employer branding really is that the thing that no one really wants to say out loud is that it's not supposed to make everyone feel good, right? A strong employer brand should repel more people than it attracts, but most companies are too scared to do that. They think like branding is about polishing everything up and presenting a perfect positive image. In reality, it's really about sharing the truth even when it makes people opt out.
I mean, I like that. I think when it comes to employer branding and when you think about it like that, what are some things that you feel like should be said in a job post or as part of the employer brand that aren't said, that could help necessarily repel in the kindest ways?
I mean, I always say there is BS at every single company. So, and like some people like it and some people don't. So if your company moves very slow because there are many layers of approval and stuff like that, put that in the job description. There's ways of writing that in a nice way, but it's like people like me who love the startup world, who love like moving fast, quick, dirty, and figuring things out later, aren't going to go work in a very structured place. Save everyone some time and put that in the job description, because if I know ahead of time, I'm not even going to waste my time applying. If it's like, we like structure here and we have 3 layers of approval for everything, great. Some people love that. People like me hate it. Put that in the job description.
I love that, Rhoda. I love that so much. I'll even one up you on that one. I would say, you're not qualified for this job. Please don't apply.
Yeah, and like put stuff like that. It's like, this isn't a match for you if, and I think I've added that. I remember a place I worked at where we would add stuff like, this is not a match for you if, and then we would add stuff like that. Cause like, for example, I won't mention company names, but that was a place where the CEO was very, very involved in every single thing. And we put that in the job description. And we put it in a nice, funny way. It's like, nothing happens here unless the CEO wants it to happen. there. It was there. Like, read between the lines, know what that means. And candidates would ask, okay, I saw this in the job description. What does that mean? And we would explain it. And some people liked it and some people did.
Well, and I know that, for example, and we'll see how this changes, but I know Ashby has sort of made that core to their job descriptions is the you will not be a fit here if, and then followed up by that. I think one of the questions that I might have for you and kind of thinking about those pieces, the, don't join us if elements is one, do you find that that can create exclusivity, like a feeling of like this is a clubhouse and you're not a part of this clubhouse if you don't meet these criteria, one. And then the second part is looking at it from the neurodivergent spectrum, or looking at it from people who are going to English isn't their second language, or English is their second language. Though I imagine there are some people where English is their first language, and this is still hard to do, where the subtext and the reading between the lines piece is actually really, really hard to do. So thinking about those two questions, how do you sort of feel when talking about this being sort of something of the quiet in our space?
So it's a great, great question. And it really depends on how you execute on it, right? Like with everything in life, yes, you can definitely put stuff and make it sound like this clique and this clubhouse. And you can write things in a way where you're not thinking of people like me, where English is my second language, right? And things like that. That's why I love video for employer branding purposes, because now you have someone explaining things. Now you think about it in a way where it's presented in a way that people don't, like, you're not going to say this isn't a place to work at if you don't drive a BMW, for example, because we all drive BMWs. Well, I mean, seriously, how much bias is there? Or this isn't the place for you if you didn't go to an Ivy League college. Cringe. Like, don't write that type of thing. Focus it more on the things that are really what you want people to know about the place so they can have the tools to self-select out. That's really all you want to do. You don't want to present that it's a clique. It shouldn't be a clique. And you don't want to write things in a way that people won't understand. So having different ways of presenting it, writing it, a video, maybe graphics, that's way you cover everyone and the different ways that they can consume and understand that information.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, which I think a lot more people are doing, is just the different collateral we think about when we start the job search process, right? It's no longer just, hey, run an intake meeting, create a job description and post and hope something happens and then go find some people that might match. There's a lot more to it. You actually ask people to do, you ask recruiters, you ask folks like yourself to be thinking about all of the different audiences and how to do that well. What would you advise people that are trying to figure out and learn how to do this with all of the technology that's out there that sells you on I do it the best?
Figure out where your people hang out and how they consume information, because yes, there's 20 million tools and they'll be like, oh, we'll post to TikTok and stuff like that. But if your ideal candidates and the people that you're targeting don't hang out on TikTok, who cares about that tool? Go back to recruiting 101 and talent attraction 101. Where are your people? What do they want? And that's what you give to them. And then based on that, what problem are you trying to solve? That's how you choose what tools, what platforms, and what strategy you use to get to them.
So one of the things that you just dropped in there, and I liked it, is, you go back, is the recruiting 101 concept. But as with nearly every school and everything, recruiting 101 gets taught by different people. So not everybody is starting out with the same baseline recruiting 101. Thinking about what you built up over your career and what you know now, and for people who are just getting into it, I mean, you talked about this, you've talked about this multiple times, and I've loved that you go back to this multiple times, which is, this might be the first time that somebody's hearing it. It might be the 100th time something's hearing it. But in order for people to internalize it, sometimes it's right place, right time, which is obviously a branding message. You could be the greatest company in the world, spend hundreds of $1,000,000 on a campaign, and it just falls flat because it's not the right place, not the right time, and all of those things. What advice would you be giving people now when it comes to where is the bet? Like, there isn't so much noise in this space that the best information is there. The 101 course is there where it's really going to actually set you up for success.
Like the 101 for recruiting teams and like learning the craft, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Or just, you can, I mean, you've made this pivot to being much more about employer brand. So, and that's commonly, at least in the rec ops space, not really a spot that we get a whole lot of training in, but have to have some knowledge of. So just kind of thinking it through any which way you want to take that question.
Look outside of our industry. Unfortunately, this is very new. It's newer to our industry, and there's many people doing it. I'm one of them, but there's different practitioners and everyone has their own thing. But at the end of the day, think like a marketer. People have been marketing products for decades, centuries. Like, it's the oldest business out there, right? Trying to get people to buy what you're selling. Same thing in recruiting, and I know people hate saying that it's like sales, but 100% is. That's just my strong opinion, hill I will die on. So think like a marketer and look at that. There's so many courses, so many people to follow, and just like look at what other people are doing. Don't even have to go that far because most companies where we work at have marketing teams that are killing it and doing amazing. Trust me, talk to, like, when I first started in this, I went and spoke to my marketing people and they were excited to share with me what they were doing, how they were marketing our product. And then I have my knowledge of people and attracting talent and stuff like that, and then merge that. But look outside of our industry.
I need to just say this because I'm such a history person. I do think that you're right that marketing is probably the oldest profession outside of maybe prostitution, which had incredible marketing that still exists up on the wall. And if we're for being, say, the quiet part out loud, I think there's a lot of times where recruiting and other paroles feel like we're just doing things for the money. And that is, in essence,
You
modern
know, when I
modern.
said it was the oldest profession, I'm like, well, actually, but I'm glad you brought
I
it.
mean, there is graffiti in Pompeii that talks about prices and where to go to find people, but that's neither here nor there. I think that might be, I've lost my marbles today. Ben, why don't you take care of finding them?
I mean, it they're not. It's not too far off base, right? One is like both are related to your livelihood, right? At this point in our society's evolution, we're more transparent than we ever have been, trying to find people for roles, right? Like, we try to attract people to these things. Like, we've created large markets. There are billions of dollars of multiple sets of industries that try to take one group and match them to another group.
I mean, it's a people business, if we're being really honest.
It is. And it's like going back a little to what I was saying, it's like many companies and many practitioners think that employer branding and talent attraction is PR, but it's not. It's more marketing than it is PR. So PR for me is like trying to make everything look nice, trying to like worry about how you come off as looking good and stuff like that. Marketing is trying to get people, meeting them where they are and getting people to buy what you're selling. That's what we're doing. Employer branding isn't PR. Employer branding is marketing.
And I'm curious, how do you make that distinction with people that are just trying to figure that out? Like, trying to understand what the difference is. Like, what have you done to explain it in a way that translates to, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about?
When I start working with companies, I literally ask them, what is the BS at this company? Tell me everything. What do you hate? What do you hate about working here? People are like, I'm about to tell my employer branding person, yes, yes, you are. We're not leaving this meeting until you tell me everything you hate about this company. I don't want to hear a single nice thing about this place. And the reason why I do that is because I want to make sure that as we're going deeper into the process, and now we're talking about campaigns and stuff like that, when everyone gets in PR mode and we have to do this, we have to do this, I go back to my list and I like, remember when you said that it's really hard to get approvals here? Remember that when you said no one ever gets promoted? We need to talk about these things. The campaign can't be about come here and grow. Like, I'm not facilitating that campaign. I will literally give you a refund if you tell me the first day that no one has been promoted in 10 years, and then you want me to make a campaign about how we're growing and how there's opportunity for growth. I'm not putting my name on that. I'm not helping you put your name on that. That's just how I roll. It's really how it seems negative at first, and people are like, what is she doing? Trust me on this one.
I love that. I love that, Rhona. Let's pivot to our last question because I think that's a really great segue. What's the quiet in about your career?
So many things. But at the core, I really care deeply about people feeling seen. I've worked in environments where I didn't feel that way, where the work I was doing didn't reflect who I was or what I brought to the table. So now everything I do, especially helping people show up on video, is rooted in like my drive to make the invisible visible, and not just for employer brands, but for the people behind them. That's really why I do what I do.
I mean, I think that that's great to hear because I think we sometimes find that it takes a little bit of time to find what our why is in our career and what caused that why. I think very similarly for me, there's a lot of things that I do. You talked about being seen. For me, it was how do we design systems that allow people to be seen? And I think that that is something where when you start out in your career, you think it's one thing, and then the longer you look, you start to see how all of the threads have connected in a beautiful sort of way to create this pattern. And I think too, to one of your points, I think in order to be seen, we can't just be looking at the reflection. We have to sometimes be looking at the shadow. And I think when you take a minute to look at the shadow and start to go, okay, these are the not good parts, you can also sort of say, well, some of the things I thought were okay are actually really, really good. And it just takes somebody to point some of that out.
Yeah, and I'm also a big advocate on telling people that like what you decide your why is or what you want to be known for in this specific moment can and will change. Just scroll through my content. What I was known for 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago when I started my career as a software engineer, really, who would have thought, isn't what it is now. There's nothing wrong with that. So people get so tied to the idea of like, okay, I'm choosing my personal brand and this is who I am and I'm married to this forever. Absolutely not.
Which I love. And thank you so much, Rhona, for sharing on today's episode of The Quiet Out Loud. Where can people find you, Rhona?
LinkedIn, Rhona Barnett Pierce, and my podcast, the Workfluencer Podcast, anywhere you find your podcast. And the website is Workfluencer Pod.
Thank you so much, everybody. And we'll see you next time on The Quiet Out Loud.